I've got 7:03 on my clock. We're supposed to start at 7, so we're just a couple of minutes late in our chat. We're talking to everybody. We're expecting several more people to join us this evening. They're going to be a little bit late. Those of you who just chimed in the last minute or so, thank you for joining us. We will find out who you are a little bit later. A few rules that we need to go over for the Zoom meeting. First of all, once we get started and our guest speaker is speaking, please leave yourself muted until he finishes. At the end of his presentation, we will take questions and answers, and you'll all be able to have an opportunity to ask him questions. He will answer them. He's a very, very amenable person. He wants to talk to everybody, so I'm sure Kenneth is going to have a lot to say, but please mute yourself while he is talking so any noises don't interrupt him.
Michael, just so you know, we have our DG Ildus has just joined us. I don't know if he can stay the whole meeting, but he's here with us right now.
Okay, welcome, sir. Yeah, our agenda is on the screen. If you click in the upper right hand corner to get the speaker on your screen, you'll see what the agenda is on here. We're going to, I will make a few comments after we do our opening ceremony, which we always have. I'll make some comments, the secretary will make his comments, and then we're going to go into the speaker. After the speaker is finished, we're going to talk about a project. And for those of you who know our club, we have a new signature project that we are going to be doing. We just got our first child sponsored. I'll explain all that to you, but our signature project just got kicked off. And we're going to be talking a little bit about that before we get into closure. We do have a guest speaker coming up on the next 2 weeks in a row, and then we'll be closing down for the Christmas time for a week or two. So we're going to go over all those items on the agenda. Now, to begin with, the way we start our meetings here is a little bit different than some other places. We're going to ask you all to participate in our normal process that we have of reciting the 4-way test. I will read the test. Will everybody at this time please turn on your microphones? Please unmute yourself. Everybody, please unmute yourself. Okay, everybody's unmuted. I will repeat, I will say one line of the 4-way test, and I'd like everybody else to repeat it after me. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
The truth.
Is it fair to all concerned?
Is it fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and better friendship?
Will it build
goodwill and better
friendship?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you all very much for that. I appreciate it. And now my comments as the president of the club. Our club is very small, as most of you already know. And that happened this past year, that we went from a good size number down to a very small. Several people had to leave us. We are in the rebuilding process. I'll be making an announcement about that near the end of our meeting tonight. And the biggest thing that we have seen, I'm speaking for all of our members that we have in our club, is that we have grown internationally. Since this virus, since we got online, we have had members from all over the world. And I mean, literally all over the world. We normally have 30 or 40 members showing up in a week when we have a speaker. When you only have a club with 10 members, that's how many people come to a meeting. But when we're online, we're talking 3 to 4 times that. We want to say thank you to all of our international audience, all the people who take the time out of their morning or their afternoon to join us at night here in St. Petersburg. We really, really appreciate it. And it has been an eye-opener for us. And it has given us the encouragement for us to go forward and want to do more and to continue. Without this, it would have been a very small meetings, and I'm not sure that how long we would last being so small. But your joining us has encouraged us and given us motivation to move forward. So we want to say thank you to all the people who have been coming online and listening to our speakers. We will continue to try to provide you with great speakers like Kenneth this evening. We're going to try and keep that going. It may not be every week, but it'll be most weeks. And we eagerly encourage you to tell your friends and ask them to join us if they want to hear good speakers, Rotarians and non-Rotarians, who are actively supporting their local communities. So that's my message for this evening. Thank you all very much, and please keep coming back because you are our motivation. You are our incentive to do better. Thank you. I will now pass it to the secretary for his comments. 1 second here. Mr. Secretary, you have the next slide, I believe.
I actually don't have any slide today, Michael. I don't have any special news, except I'd like to say that we have been pushing out our message about our meetings into various social media platforms. So we've got event listings on VK, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I have tried to put some postings on other club or districts or ICCs that have a Facebook page. I would ask all of our members to please follow the social media that we have, so that if you do post something or see something, it makes it easier for you to forward it. Because as Michael said, we want to take advantage of the critical situation that we're in now around the world to reach out to more people. And as Michael will also say, we are appealing to other clubs to help us with projects. So the more people that know that we have a meeting, the greater chance that we'll have more people showing up every Wednesday night when we have an open meeting. Back to you, President Michael.
Thank you. And I would like to make one more additional comment that I forgot at the beginning. For all of you, if you think there's a possibility that we do not have your email address to keep you up to date, please go to the chat box, put your name and your email address, and we will be happy to add you to the list. We started with a very small list about 5 months ago. Now we have more than 250 people who are interested in coming to our meeting, not all at the same time, but they want to know what's going on. And as we have key speakers come in, they've been popping in and listening on our Wednesday night sessions that we have. So please go to the chat box during the next hour and a half, put in your name and your email address. Randall, the secretary, will make sure we capture that on our club recording, and we will get back to you and let you know more about what's going on. But again, thank you for your contributions very, very much. Okay, we're going to be entertained this evening by Mr. Kenneth Quinn. He's smiling. He doesn't realize he entertains people, but he does. Kenneth is going to entertain us. Kenneth and I earlier were discussing, and this happened about, I think, 3 weeks ago. We had a meeting and it went from 7 to 9, and we actually wrapped it up 15 minutes early at 8:45. And who pops in the last 15 minutes but Kenneth? He had come in to hear Heidi Kuhn talk, and Heidi was finished and out, and he popped in, and it was a big surprise to us. And we found out who Kenneth was, and he told us just a little bit about himself, and it was very intriguing to find out his background and what he had done. You're going to hear about that tonight. But it was just by chance he popped in, and that's how things work with this on this online. People hear and want to go check something out. They meet somebody else and they can come back and contribute. And Kenneth is going to contribute tonight. Kenneth and I were talking a little bit earlier online that he was in Vietnam, similar time to myself, but he was a civilian, but he had to fight. He had to defend himself. He had to work there while he was a civilian, which a lot of people don't know occurred not only with Kenneth, but with many other people. He's been very active on the world stage, speaking around the world, and he has visited Russia and St. Petersburg in the past, so he's been here before. Although not a Rotarian himself, he was recently awarded the Rotary Award for Excellence. So I'm going to show you a slide about Kenneth. This is a slide where Kenneth received an award, the Excellence in Service to Humanity, Kenneth M. Kuhn. Kenneth has done a lot of help to folks. He has not only worked as an ambassador for our government, but when he got tired of doing that, he said, I need a change in life. He went and joined another group and set up something that's similar to the Nobel Peace Prize, but only for food. It's a little bit different. You'll be hearing about that this evening. Quite an ambitious young man. He is still going strong. He's not quit that job. I should say he finished that job, and now he's looking for his next task. And I'm not sure where he's going to be headed, but I'm sure he's going to tell us all about that. But Kenneth, I know most of us were not around you. Most of the people on the screen were not around you at the time that you received this award, but I think that it is a very, very noticeable award that you should get recognition for. So I would like everybody here, let's give Kenneth a round of applause for winning that award and contributing to Rotary. Thank you very, very much, Kenneth.
Thank you. Thank you.
We need more people like you. So I'm not going to take up any more of his time. I'm going to let Kenneth take over. Kenneth, you've got the floor. Go for it.
So President Mike, thank you for the very nice introduction. I want to thank Secretary Randall for all his help in arranging this. I thought when I popped into your meeting, as you described, you might have thought, oh, this is the CIA or somehow listening in and there, but it was an interesting experience. So, and I'm pleased to virtually be back in St. Petersburg. I had such a wonderful time there, but I'm speaking tonight from Des Moines, Iowa. And my topic is talking about Vavilov, Borlaug, and building a Nobel Prize in Iowa. And I thought you've got a very diverse and international audience, so I better say something about all of those, starting with Iowa. If you're not familiar with Iowa, it's a state in the middle of the United States, right above St. Louis, right above Missouri, where President Mike grew up on the Mississippi River. It's well known for corn and hogs and soybeans, but also as the place where the presidential race begins every 4 years with something called the Iowa caucuses. And it's also the state where the president of China, Xi Jinping, came as a 31-year-old young Communist Party secretary on his first trip outside of China. So he was so well received. He has a fondness and an affection for Iowa. And I can speak a little bit about that later. So Norman Borlaug and Nikolai Vavilov are two of the greatest agricultural scientists in all of human history. Both had a deep, deep commitment to ending hunger and ensuring that people don't starve. Norman Borlaug was born in Iowa in March of 1914, grew up on a family farm outside a small town called Cresco, got a degree in agricultural science at University of Minnesota, as we in Iowa say, his only mistake in life. But he then went to Mexico in the 40s and 50s, working with the poorest farmers, and developed what was called miracle wheat, wheat that would resist disease and give 3, 4, 5 times the yield. And he then took it to India, Pakistan, the Middle East, all the way from Egypt to Iran in the 60s, as that area and those countries faced imminent mass starvation. Millions, hundreds of millions could starve to death. Borlaug convinces the leaders of governments there, change your whole approach to agriculture, adapt my seeds, and they do it. And Borlaug is invited to Oslo in 1970 to receive the Nobel Peace Prize, the first person ever from agriculture to receive that award. And he is acclaimed as the father of the Green Revolution. Nikolai Vavilov was a Russian born in Moscow, went to agricultural college, became an agricultural scientist. He was born about 25 years before Borlaug. So right after the Bolshevik Revolution, the end of World War I, the Soviet Union, particularly Russia, was facing an enormous amount of famine, starvation, food shortages. Lenin picks Vavilov out and sends him on missions outside Russia, bring back crops, bring back new species of crops, particularly corn and wheat. And his first mission, Vavilov's, is to North America and to the United States. And he comes to the Midwest and he comes to Iowa. And so it's 1921. Vavilov is traveling around Iowa, very little known, but you track where he went, and he was up near Borlaug's farm, up where Borlaug grew up. I like to fantasize that maybe somehow Borlaug's in a one-room schoolhouse. Vavilov goes by. He continues there. He's gathering germplasm, gathering seeds, and brings them back to Russia, brings them back to the Soviet Union, and they're stored at a plant institute in Leningrad, in St. Petersburg. And this becomes the single biggest and greatest depository for agricultural seeds, preserving biodiversity. And as the Soviet Union, though, goes through more famine and food shortages in the 1930s, thanks to Stalin's policies, Stalin turns on Vavilov, has him arrested as a traitor, imprisoned, sentenced to death. And in 1943, Vavilov dies in prison. He's not executed, but he dies. During the siege of Leningrad for a year, where food shortages are incredible, people are dying from starvation in huge numbers. The followers, his staff at this institute, where people could have been eating these seeds, they protect them, even as they are starving themselves, in one of the truly great heroic episodes of the history of Russia and the Soviet Union. The seed bank in St. Petersburg, in Leningrad, is kept intact and preserved. In 1955, after Vavilov's death, Khrushchev restores his reputation, and Vavilov is considered today to be a great scientist in the history of Russian science. Now, there was a third visitor who came to Iowa back in that same period of time, actually before Vavilov. And in 1889, a young man came from Wisconsin to Iowa, and he had been somebody who had been having a rather tumultuous life. He had been expelled from several schools, never find his way, wasn't into studying as much as he should be. And he comes to Des Moines, Iowa, where I'm speaking to you from, and he goes to work for a law firm there. And he gets straightened out, and he brings purpose to his life, goes to the University of Iowa, graduates with a degree in law in 1891, goes off to Chicago and practices law, and with some of his fellow business associates, start having these weekly get-togethers over lunch. And in 1905, they make it permanent. And that person was Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary. And that 1905, that Rotary Club with an Iowa connection, just as Vavilov and Borlaug had, was started and grew to become 34,000 clubs, over 1 million members today. Each of those three people planted a crop. Borlaug, it was wheat. Vavilov, it was corn. And Paul Harris, it was world understanding and peace. So what Paul Harris did came to impact me 70 years after he was in Des Moines. When I was graduating from high school, my father had lost his job, hard times. I didn't have enough money to go to college, even a little local college in Dubuque, Iowa, on the Mississippi. And I entered a Rotary essay contest and won first place. I won $100, and that enabled me to pay my tuition and go to college that first year. That led to my getting degrees, and I graduated in college in '64. And in 1967, I was inspired by another person from Rotary, by his legacy, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. And Kennedy had talked about the American Diplomatic Corps, that he might have pursued that if he hadn't gotten into politics. And I took the test to become a Foreign Service officer. So every year there's a written test, 20,000 people take it, and eventually gets down to about 200 people that are accepted. And I got the letter saying I had passed. And I was stunned. I thought, wow, government makes a mistake. They probably got my scores mixed up with somebody from Princeton or Harvard. But anyway, I show up at the State Department, begin my career as an American diplomat. And you can imagine, I'm from Dubuque, Iowa. I have these visions. I'll be going to Paris or London, maybe even Moscow. And instead, because I'm under draft age and single and never been in the military, I get sent to Vietnam. And not in Saigon at the embassy, but out working in villages in a place called Sadek. I land in a single engine plane on a road. They don't even stop the engine. They open the door, throw out my bag and said, we'll be back for you in 18 months. If you're still alive, we'll take you then on to your regular diplomatic career. Well, I'm out in villages as the Green Revolution in rice is happening. At the same time, Norman Borlaug is in villages in India. And I see firsthand the transformative power of building, improving roads and bringing in new seeds. And the yield is increased. Farmers have so much more crop. They have surplus. They can now buy more things for their family. And this combination of roads and rice undermined the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese army that was there more and more effectively than troops on the ground, airstrikes, whatever it would be. That agriculture and roads were a way of undercutting their recruiting ability. And so that was one of the lessons I learned. I also was assigned in the MACV team. So I replaced an Army major and I was the commander of the team. I flew over 100 missions in helicopters as the commanding officer, putting in airstrikes, doing medevacs under fire. I'm the only civilian, only Foreign Service officer has the Army Air Medal for flying combat operations. And I also had experiences of reporting on the Khmer Rouge, the worst revolutionary genocidal organization that ended up killing 2 million people out of 7 million in Cambodia in 4 years. So I was there 6 years. I get the plane comes back for me, takes me to Washington, where I'm going to work at the White House on Henry Kissinger's staff. I was interpreter for the president in Vietnamese in the White House. I was involved in the fall of Saigon, starting the efforts to evacuate refugees. And after that, I had my diplomatic career. I was involved in an espionage case. I'd be talking to people who were traitors sitting across the desk from me in the State Department, who I had helped identify as the traitors to our country. I was in China when we normalized relations in 1979, got to travel to Shanghai and Guangzhou, and where the Shenzhen Special Zone would develop was a little fishing village in those times. I was in the Philippines as we faced terrorism. Everyone has seen these reports about the killing of this Iranian scientist. We had people being ambushed like that all the time. Every time I rode in a car, I had 5 bodyguards. Every time I rode in a car, it was, who's going to try to kill me today? Who's going to try to kill other people in our embassy? But I also learned the incredible power of Rotary in the Philippines, such a strong presence. I went and spoke 3 or 4 Rotary clubs, always warmly received. And I saw the power of Rotary to build genuine friendships across national borders. In 1990, after the war, I was involved in searching for POW MIAs. That brought me to Moscow. So my first trip ever to now Russia, Soviet Union having collapsed. And we're meeting with now Russian officials, military, people who had known and kept track of the prisoners. We were taken down into the state security archives, and a door was opened and they turned on lights in this huge room and they said, in here are 4 million cards of everybody held by Soviet state security. Start where you want. You're free to look through everything. I met with the GRU senior military officers. They sat across the table and they said, look, we understand that you're likely not going to believe us. If we were you, we wouldn't believe us either. But here's the truth. We never took an American military person out of Vietnam. The Vietnamese wouldn't let us on that. And that turned out to be true. They were honest with us. Went to Vladivostok, Khabarovsk. We said, we want to go to prisons. They said, oh, tell us which prison you want to go to. So we pick a prison, they take us there, put us in with the convicts, and said, just talk all you want, we'll come back. We talked to prison guards. We were given incredible access. There was such openness. One time we went to KGB headquarters and we were with the senior KGB official. We're sitting around a little table and he pours tea for us. And he's offering the little toast. So we pick up the tea and about to sip, and he says, is special KGB tea. So you can imagine what's going through our minds. If we sip this, are we going to all pass out and start revealing all of our deeply held secrets? And so eventually we sipped the tea and nothing happened. It was nice tea. But there was a great opportunity missed by the United States. There was incredible openness towards us, and it wasn't perceived. A lot of the Russia specialists, Soviet specialists, were too hard-nosed about things. I spent then the 90s working on Cambodia, Vietnam. There were still about 25,000 Khmer Rouge in that country. I went to the prime minister, couldn't get rid of them. I went to the prime minister, I said, hey, I've got an idea. We have $13 million. Let's demine roads. Let's bring in new seeds. Let's upgrade the roads. We did that. And in 1999, the last Khmer Rouge surrendered. We eradicated the worst genocidal, mass murdering terrorist organization of the second half of the 20th century using that formula, Norman Borlaug's formula of new seeds and upgraded rural roads. I had an embassy that had no Marine security guards. It was Benghazi, right? An embassy with nobody to protect it. My residence was rocketed with my wife and 3 children in it, ringed in automatic weapons fire. We threw our children on the floor, covered our children with our bodies. And you never know how much you love your children until you're praying as deeply as you can that the bullets that come in will kill you and not kill your children. Also, I have a wonderful Rotary story about Cambodia. There wasn't yet any clubs there. And as we opened up these areas that had been held by the Khmer Rouge, the government said, we want to take the diplomats there. So they got a plane, put all the ambassadors on it. We landed at a place called Pai Lin. Nobody has been there for 30, 35 years, only controlled by the Khmer Rouge. And now for the first time, they didn't have cars for us. So we got in the back of a pickup truck, and open. So I'm standing next to the North Korean ambassador, and we're holding on to the pickup truck as we're bouncing down these roads. And he and I are holding each other. And we get into the town, and our hosts say, you are the first outsiders, the first foreigners to be in here in 30 years. So I look over, and there are these 3 Westerners, look like 3 Americans there. And so I get out of the truck, I walk over to them and I say, who are you? And they say, oh, we're from Rotary. We're here inoculating children against polio. So on the front lines, even in the most dangerous places, Rotary, I saw firsthand Rotary out there. Also, my embassy captured the highest ranking North Korean terrorist ever apprehended. in Cambodia, and it was a remarkable experience. So in 1999, I had sort of finished my time at 32 years in State Department, and I went back home to the US, back here to Iowa, to take a job as president of the World Food Prize. And the World Food Prize had been started by Norman Borlaug. Remember, Borlaug got the Nobel Peace Prize in 1970. He goes to the Nobel Committee and said, we need a Nobel Prize in agriculture. Please get one started right away. And they said, oh, we don't have the money. It's not in Alfred Nobel's will. So Borlaug goes out and he finds a sponsor and starts his own. And he called it the World Food Prize. And it had been moved to Iowa, and it was a one-day event, and maybe 25 people came from outside Iowa to it. They honored significant people who had done great things in combating hunger. So, and it was a $250,000 prize. So I meet Borlaug for the first time, and he says, look, the only two things we're looking for you to do. One, make this so it's really seen as the Nobel Prize for Food and Agriculture, and make Des Moines be the center of the world each year in food and agriculture. So I thought to myself, mission impossible, mission impossible. And I did what any thoughtful person would do. I called the State Department and said, can I unretire and come back? Because I'll never be able to do this. Well, they didn't want to have me back. And so I said, well, I got to give it my best shot, and I need some partners, and who better than Rotary? So I drove up to Dubuque, and I spoke to the Rotary Club, reminded them that they had started me on my way back in 1960. I thanked them and said, I hope you can help me in this. And then I spoke to Rotary clubs in Des Moines, and we said, you know, one thing to get, because a lot of people, even people in Iowa, didn't know who Borlaug was, and said, let's, maybe we can make him more well-known. When they, with our help, nominated him for Rotary International's highest award, World Understanding and Peace, won by the Pope and Mother Teresa. And in 2002, in Barcelona, at Rotary International, Borlaug receives that award, Rotary's highest honor. A few years later, I invite the president of Rotary International, come back, come to our events, and to endeavor to make something into a Nobel Prize in Iowa. First, I said, we got to have a ceremony that looks like that. So I went to the governor and said, can we hold our ceremony in the state capitol, this magnificent 19th century building that would look just as home in St. Petersburg or in Vienna or Paris as it does in Iowa. And so we have a ceremony that Borlaug said, this is even better than what I had in Oslo when I received the Nobel Prize. We started a youth program. It had about 20, 25 students in it when I came. Now it's 10,000 a year, and we're reaching around the world to inspire students to follow in Borlaug's footsteps, fighting hunger, promoting global food security. And then I built a symposium called the Borlaug Dialogue. And it said the central question is whether we will be able to meet the single greatest challenge that human beings have ever faced, which is, can we sustainably and nutritiously feed the 9 to 10 billion people who will be on our planet by the year 2050. And we had speaker Xi Jinping, now the vice president of China. I hosted him in Des Moines for a US-China symposium. Kofi Annan came to speak, Tony Blair, Princess Haya bint al-Hussein, the daughter of King Hussein, UN Messenger of Peace, Akor, Senator Vladimir Plotnikov, the largest Russian farm federation, came and was a speaker, and Bill Gates. So Bill Gates, who can give a speech anywhere in the world that he wants, to launch his multi-billion-dollar effort to end poverty in the world, called up, had his staff call me and said, can Mr. Gates come? He wants to make his announcement of his big global anti-poverty project. He wants to do it at the World Food Prize. So I was talking on the phone and I said, oh gosh, why didn't you call me earlier? Program's pretty set. You think you can put it off till next year? And so, I didn't really say that, right? I said, well, after they got the defibrillators and jump-started my heart, I said, yes, of course. And so in October 2009, in Des Moines, Iowa, the Marriott Hotel, the World Food Prize, Bill Gates launched his global effort to end poverty in Africa and around the world. So we had come, a long way. Now, instead of having 20 people, we'd have between 12 and 1,500 from 30, 40, 50 countries, all coming to Iowa, all to honor Borlaug. I learned one of the lessons is from mission impossible to mission achieved. And that when Rotary is involved, nothing is impossible. After Borlaug passed away in 2009, I came to St. Petersburg in 2010. I spoke at the International Wheat Congress. There were about 8,000 scientists. And I got up and I spoke about Vavilov and Borlaug and the World Food Prize and that Iowa connection. Probably the single most significant moment in this, and I should say that from my first experience in Sadek province in Vietnam as a 25, 26-year-old through my work at the World Food Prize, the theme that emerges is peace through agriculture. And probably the best example of that came in 2012 when the Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, came to Iowa as we gave our prize to an Israeli Jewish irrigation pioneer. The man who had made the desert bloom, took his expertise outside Israel, and he had been nominated by 3 Arab Muslim scientists. And in the audience is an Israeli diplomat, sheikhs from Qatar, Princess Haya is there, and Buddhists and Hindus and Christians and people of all faiths and background, all coming together, all cheering for this agricultural and humanitarian achievement. The last thing I did is building a Nobel Prize is we took a 100-year-old building, raised $36 million, and transformed it into the Norman Borlaug Hall of Laureates. It looks a lot like the Vavilov Institute in St. Petersburg. And I commissioned artworks in there, and 2 of them are particularly relevant and poignant. One is of President Herbert Hoover, the only American president born in Iowa, who is generally associated with the failures of the Great Depression, but who was America's single greatest humanitarian, who brought food from America to Europe and to the Soviet Union in the immediate aftermath of World War I and World War II. And so for 6, 7 years, children in the Soviet Union were having a Hoover lunch, helping them stay alive and stay nourished. The other painting is one of Premier Khrushchev, who in 1959, at the single most dangerous moment in human history, when nuclear weapons in the Soviet Union and the US were poised to be fired at each other, he comes to Iowa, just as Vavilov had, goes to the farm of a man named Roswell Garst, and the painting shows the 2 of them at their corn, out at Garst's corn crib. And Khrushchev's holding an ear of corn saying, why can't I have corn like this in the Soviet Union? And that leads to, for 2 decades, Garst and his nephew, John Crystal, going back and forth to the Soviet Union as informal ambassadors of agriculture. They never negotiated about nuclear weapons, but they built in this buffer zone, this sense of understanding, so that it could ease tensions and keep those weapons from ever being fired. So in this Hall of Laureates building, where that painting hangs, you go downstairs. In one room, we have the names of the 20 most significant individuals in human agriculture. And up there with Pasteur and Gregor Mendel is Vavilov, one of the 20 most significant scientists in the history of human agriculture. And out in the garden is a statue of Norman Borlaug, and next to it is a plaque indicating that the statue was donated by the Des Moines Rotary Club. And so here in the 21st century, Vavilov, Borlaug, and Paul Harris are all back together again in Iowa, being recognized, in a sense, for the great crops that they planted in corn, in wheat, and in peace and understanding. So thank you for having me. I'm such a great admirer of Rotary. I'm proud to be a Paul Harris Fellow. I'm proud to have received that. It was from Rotary International, Excellence in Service to Humanity, kind of the bookends of my life and career. Rotary giving me that $100 so I could go to college, and now receiving this Rotary International Award. Thank you so much.
Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you very, very much, Kenneth. We're going to take questions from the audience, but I want to lead off with the first questions. I want to know what years you were in Vietnam.
I arrived in Vietnam November of '68, and I left in April of 1974 to go to the White House.
Same time. I was there same time in Da Nang.
Wow.
I arrived in Halloween on '68, and I left in September of '70.
Wow. Yes. So this
Small
was
world, very, very small world.
Small world.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. Okay, questions from the audience. If you'll raise your hand, I'll see you on the screen, and I'll call on you, and you can unmute yourself and ask your questions. Anybody have any questions for Kenneth? Whoa, very quiet crowd tonight. No hands up. Yes, Natalia, unmute yourself, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kenneth, for a wonderful presentation. You know, it's not only interesting, you're such a great speaker. What you say is so exciting, and it fills with energy and optimism, what you say. Now, the world seems to me a great deal pessimistic, because no one knows where we're moving to. What you said, I understood, I felt that even in the hardest moments of human history, there were bright people, people who loved the world and the people of the world, and they did something that saved, that helped the world go on. So the question is, are you optimistic about the future?
I was more optimistic before. I was so struck by the very personal relationship that the president of China had with America and with the state of Iowa. And when President Trump chose the governor of Iowa, who had been the host for Xi Jinping, as the US ambassador to China, I thought, well, we're going to build upon that. For whatever reasons, unfortunately, things have gone in the opposite direction in terms of US-Chinese relations. And that was disappointing to me. When Xi Jinping came to Iowa in 2012, and the governor then, who became the ambassador, was still governor, gave a big dinner for him in the Iowa State Capitol. And Xi Jinping got up, and he had spent time when he was in Iowa as a young man in a place called Muscatine. And I've spoken to the Rotary Club in Muscatine, and it's on the Mississippi, just north of St. Louis. And Xi Jinping talked about that time, and he talked about seeing the sun over the Mississippi River in a very, very personal way, because the people in Muscatine had been nice to him when he was a nobody. And he remembered that they were genuinely friendly. And he went to their homes and he said, "You are America to me." So I thought, my goodness, what an unusual thing to have someone speak with such heartfelt feelings about a place in another country. And I thought, this is a really unique opportunity. But I fear that we are back to almost somewhat of a Cold War atmosphere. And I'm not sure how that turns out well.
Thank
Thank you.
Chris. Good. Henny, did you have your hand up?
No, I just listening.
Okay. Okay, all right. Anybody else have a question? I have a comment while I'm waiting for someone else to come up with a question. Kenneth, my question is, maybe I'm wrong, but obviously I grew up just a couple years after you did in America. But when I was in school, we never, none of my books, none of my teachers, when we did world history, ever talked about the 900 days siege of St. Petersburg. It was not mentioned. It was not in our history books. It wasn't taught whatsoever. And now, having lived here, I've become close to someone whose grandmother went through that. And I have talked to other older people whose parents went through that. And it's just horrendous as to what they went through. And we talk about helping them. I went to a lake here near St. Petersburg called Lake Ladoga by train. And I found out that there was a train that would drive from St. Petersburg to Lake Ladoga, and ships would unload in Lake Ladoga with food for the siege. And they have pictures of the boxes the food came in. On the side of the wooden boxes where meat was inside, it says on there, Hormel meats. Americans had been sending meat over by ship, and it was coming into the city to help them feed the people during the siege. So I think there's a lot that went on at that time for Americans and other people to help the Russians during that time, but we don't know about a lot of it. So
yes, and that's what we should, and with China as well.
Right.
So when I speak in China, I say, remember that it was in 1944 that the United States sent a mission to Yunnan to meet with Mao Zedong, because China and the US were allies in a struggle when both of us could have lost our sovereignty and independence.
Everything.
And we should remember that at that big moment, historic moment, we were together.
Yeah.
And most Chinese don't know that.
Yeah.
Same thing. So we need to find those things, how remarkable it was.
When I went to Vladivostok, they have a train there near the international airport there, and that train is separated into pieces. The locomotive is separated into pieces. You can still see it's a locomotive, but it's not all tightly together. And when I asked them about it, they said the train came over here by boat from America during the war. They brought several locomotives over. We reassembled them and we used them to move food and troops and everything else during World War II coming from Americans. So a lot of folks do not know about the history of the connections between America and Russia during those bad years. And if we could only recall those things and get those in people's mind again, I don't know if it's going to do any good, but it would be helpful to talk about it. And maybe what we need to do on this channel, on this site, maybe we need to have somebody come in and speak to us about the 900-day siege and how Americans and Russians helped each other during that siege, because there was a lot done. Any hands up for any questions? Anybody have a question? Yes, Kai, unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you, President Michael. So my question to Ambassador Quinn is how, if you have lived for so long in Vietnam and Cambodia, how was it to come back to the US and to live like in a place where everything is so
Well,
normal?
Well, yeah, it was, when I came back the first time after being in Vietnam for 5-6 years, I felt like a stranger. People looked different. Men's hair was longer. The style of their clothes was different, and the politics had all shifted and changed. And it took me a while to sort of get used to that and kind of find my place. I was working in the White House when Richard Nixon resigned. And I was in the East Room of the White House when he gave his farewell speech. And I watched him, the huge constitutional crisis, and watched him walk out the door and get in the helicopter and fly off. And then by chance, by mistake, I was riding in the elevator a couple of hours later when Gerald Ford, the vice president, was going to be sworn in. And I'm in the elevator in a separate building where Ford was. The doors open and there's Gerald Ford with his Secret Service about to go and be sworn in as the president. And I went, oh, I'll get off. And he said, no, we'll ride. He's a nice guy. We'll ride together. So I'm riding down in the elevator with Gerald Ford, who's about to be sworn in as president, this big moment. And I thought, what can I say that'll be, this statement that'll be remembered all through history. And as the doors opened, finally, I said, good luck, Mr. President. I couldn't think of anything more dramatic than good luck, Mr. President.
Sometimes we're at loss for words, but the simplest things, just good luck or thank you, often goes a long way.
Yeah, indeed.
Natalia just sent me a message. You have a question, Natalia? Will you unmute yourself, please? Natalia Kunzer?
Oh, I don't think I saw the message, but I had a question just in general. What would your view be? What organizations such as Rotary can do now in this rather chilled relationships between the United States and Russia? How can we improve the momentum and hopefully look for a brighter future rather than focusing on all negative right now?
Well, I think the more clubs you can have and the more exchanges you can have. When I had Senator Plotnikov and his group of Accor coming to Iowa, and they'd be meeting with farm organizations, that was golden. That was real people-to-people things. So people-to-people diplomacy, it can really be very, very powerful. And it's only when you meet face to face that you see, oh, people are not so terrible in other countries. Your ideas about them. So as relations get more strained, it's more important than ever to have these people-to-people exchanges, people-to-people relationships. So, for example, as China and US official relations were coming strained, and the pandemic, COVID, was ripping apart America, several Chinese organizations that I had been dealing with that weren't government were sending me masks, surgical masks. And I'm delivering them to hospitals in Des Moines and in Iowa City and sharing them and saying, these came from China. And people were pleased to get them because they couldn't find them to buy elsewhere. So Rotary is so powerful. I'm such a believer. And if we could have Rotary clubs everywhere in Russia, everywhere in the former Soviet Union, everywhere in China, in Vietnam, in Cambodia, where there's Rotary, it's unlikely there will be war, is my view.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Kenneth. Kenneth, we have another person that's with us this evening, and he's asked me to ask you a question.
Sure.
In America, we've just had an election. We have a different gentleman coming in who's going to be our leader there in January. And this question is, how do you see the relationships, and from your viewpoint, how do you see the relationship between Russia and the United States changing or being modified at all with this new individual who's coming into office? Do you have any opinion on that?
I believe that President Biden will tend to want to go back to the situation, relationships before 2016, and will seek to restore those. He'll want to rebuild relationships with Western Europe, with NATO allies. I think he will want to turn the temperature down in relations with China. I'm not sure what his view will be towards Russia. There's questions about, well, has Russia been involved in our elections or trying to influence them in any way? I don't know for sure, but I suspect that will still be somewhat standoffish.
Right.
But the people at the Homeland Security said there was no foreign interference in the election, and they're very definitive about it. So.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Any other questions? We have time for about 2 more questions. Any other questions from anyone? Oh, Randall, I see you waving your head. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have a question. A quick question. Ambassador Quinn, when you were in Cambodia, was Rotary there yet, or did it arrive while you were there?
Rotary was not there. There was not a Rotary Club. There was just the beginning of an American Chamber of Commerce that had 5 or 6 people in it. To be honest, I don't know if there's a Rotary Club there now. I would not be surprised. I would think there probably would be.
There is.
But Rotary people would be coming from Thailand or Philippines or some other place where Rotary was more established.
And there are clubs, I'm not sure how many, but there are definitely in Phnom Penh and Siem Reap.
Yep.
And they tend to have a lot of Koreans and Thai people
Yes,
involved,
yes,
and Taiwanese.
right. Yeah, people representing American companies. It was like that when they were starting.
I'm curious, and I'm curious, since you've spent so much time in Vietnam, we don't have Rotary in Vietnam yet, despite the long efforts of Rotarians in surrounding countries to bring Rotary into Vietnam. Do you have any idea what might be preventing us from being accepted there by the?
I don't. There is a suspicion on the part of authoritarian governments that organizations which are controlled from outside could be undermining their authority and undercutting them, which is why there would be hesitation. However, the main motivation on Vietnam now is they want to be the closest friends possible with the United States because they worry about Chinese influence over them. They have a 1,000-year history of being dominated by China. They don't want to have that ever again. And they are worried that China is now this looming huge power. And so the Vietnamese ambassador in Washington, D.C. is just extremely friendly outreach, building relationships with Vietnamese Americans. They should be very open, in my view, to having Rotary if it's presented as this will be another way of consolidating the relationship with the United States. And what usually works is say, let us try it for a couple of years. If you don't like it, we'll make it go away. That's how I got them to do things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions from anyone? Can I see a hand? Anybody? No other questions? None? Okay. Very good. Kenneth, again, thank you very, very much for taking your time to tell us the history you started back in the late 1800s and brought it all the way up to date. So that's a long,
Yeah.
long time of history. You presented it in a
Yeah.
way we were able to follow along. And there were some interesting characters, not only Americans, but Russians and several other folks. And the thing I found most amazing about your connection was the third person in the party.
Yeah. Yes.
I did not know anything about that third party of Paul Harris, and it sounds very interesting that he came through Iowa on his way to Chicago.
Yes. And that it was short but critical,
Yeah,
informative moment.
yeah. So
You know, Iowa. Who would have imagined?
the center of the universe, not center of the United States. The center of the universe is Iowa. So
Vavilov, I didn't want to put Paul Harris's name in the middle of it. I thought better to have it be a surprise.
oh, it was a surprise. So, and a very pleasant one. So thank you very much.
Yeah, good.
Let's give him a round of applause again for all of his help tonight.
Thanks
Please,
for having me.
everybody recognize. Yeah.
Thank you.
Kenneth, I hope you don't leave us right away. I hope you hang around just for a little while longer.
Oh,
We got
yeah.
a little bit to go. Our meeting is not going to go 2 hours tonight. We will be done on the half hour. So if you some of you folks are wondering,
Sure, I'll hang around.
thank you very, very much. We appreciate that. I'm going to go to the next slide, which is going to be about projects. And as we go to our projects, we need to talk about what we have done and what we're going to be doing. Some of these things are interesting, not only to you, but possibly to some other people as to what is coming. Now, we have just finished our bench project. It's not complete, not 100% done, but probably about 98% done. So it's getting very, very close to being finished. For those of you who don't know, maybe you have been to St. Petersburg sometime in your life. If you have been here, I'm almost sure you went to the Hermitage during your stay in St. Petersburg. Almost everybody goes there for a visit. There is a Hermitage garden outside with a fountain in the middle and benches around the fountain. In the last couple of years, we have gone in and we have had all the benches removed and all the benches replaced. There are now 18 benches around that fountain, and every one of them has a Rotary logo, large Rotary logo, right in the middle of every one of those 18 benches. So anybody, the millions of people who come here on a normal year, not this year, but the millions of people who come here on a normal year, when they go to the Hermitage, if they want to sit down after they come out for a few minutes to rest, they will see that Rotary International is in St. Petersburg and put in the benches. And this was sponsored by clubs in several different countries. Many, many different individuals came together in our project, and we were able to put those benches in. Right now, the only thing we're waiting for is the virus thing to leave so we can have the city fathers come in and give it the last official blessing that is done. And we are looking at another project to continue with another park, if possible, in the near future. So that's one of the things that we're working on. We also have another project that we have started, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about it, and then I'm going to ask, where's he at over there? Mr. Andreas Bowen, our treasurer, I'm going to ask him to speak about it for a few minutes. And this is a project that we started several years ago. There was a cerebral palsy rehabilitation center for children here in St. Petersburg. It was known as the Romanov Center. They needed some equipment, and we bought the electronic equipment to scan, and you will see it in a moment in a video, to scan the imprint of the children so they could get a perfect fit for the shoe. And then they also do all the therapy to help these children get better. Well, our project was to get that machinery, and we had about 5 different clubs in a global grant to put it all together and make it happen. It was successful. That was very, very good a few years ago. We went back there recently and we said, how else can we help? They said, well, we don't need any more equipment right now. So we want to know, how can we help? So we talked to them and we worked out a deal where they're going to give us the individual children who need this help, but their families don't have the money. And we're going to be sponsoring them. And what I need to show you here in just a moment, if I get to my screen, 1 second here. This was Kenneth. I need to go to the next screen. Here's a young boy. His name is Gorin, Makar. Last week, our club agreed, and we are taking the actions that I'm going to ask Andreas to talk about it in a few minutes, with our first child. We are going to sponsor him so that he can go through the therapy necessary. Gordon cannot walk normally. He needs assistance. He cannot walk. He can't play. You know what? Many of us as children, imagine yourself a 7-year-old child, maybe in kindergarten or the first grade or maybe second grade, and you're running around in the playground. You're doing many different things. Gordon can't do that. He's not capable of that, not physically capable of it. So he's at the Rehabilitation Center, and he's going to be going through 500 hours of hands-on comprehensive therapy in a variety of different methods. I'm going to show you a very short video in a moment. You're going to see what I'm talking about. There are many, many different ways of helping these children. Without our financial gain, we don't know if he would have ever got a chance to go through this or not. So we went there and we asked them, who do you have that needs help? And this is a child that they pointed out to us, and this is our first child. We're going to be contacting other Rotarians and other clubs and finding out if anyone else would like to help additional children in the near future. So all of you that we have your email addresses and your contacts, we will be sending out a notice telling you what we're doing, but also asking if any of you want to contribute, because we know that there are many things that the Rotarians can get done if they know they exist. If you don't know there's a problem, you can't ever make them happen. And we want you to make them happen. So 1 second, let me get to my other screen if I can here. My other screen. I'm going to let Andres talk while I find my other screen. Andre, can you come on board and tell us a little bit about your information you have, Andres Bone?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. However, I would appreciate if I could summarize what you just opened to say.
Okay.
Maybe you have found in between the screen and you can share this with us.
Mm-hmm. Randall, do you have that video ready? You said you had it on your computer. I'm having difficulty calling it up. That is one of the drawbacks that we have once in a while. It's only a 4-minute video. It's very short.
Okay, then I will step in. First of all, thank you, Michael, for giving me the floor. And before stepping into the subject of the Romanov Center, I would like to thank you, Ambassador Quinn, for his encouraging and interesting speech. Between the lines, you learned that he knows much more than he was sharing with us this evening. And it is a great pleasure for me to be part of this Rotary Club, which you described, and that we as individuals can help to make the world a little bit better. And we need these biggies as you and others, as you mentioned, to make Rotary recognizable and to open doors where we as normal people would not have the chance to open the door. Thank you, Ambassador Quinn, for this support on Rotary. Coming back to the Child Rehabilitation Center, I had the chance today to meet, to go there and to finally sign the contract for our support. If our Secretary Randall would be so nice to share, to give me the right to the screen sharing.
Go ahead.
1 second, hang on.
Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. No, that's not the one which I wanted to share.
There's another child.
Do you see this
Mhm.
picture? Do you see the picture?
Yes, you with the little girl? Or is that a boy?
I'm with a boy. This is
Yeah.
Gorin Makar with
okay,
his
this-
mother.
Okay.
I had the chance today to meet them and to inform them about our support. You cannot believe how the eyes of these two were blooming, that they know that they started already the first step of this rehabilitation. and she is alone with the child. There's no father to support. She did not know how to continue this hard steps they brought forward. And I had the chance to meet them and to convey the positive message that we will support Gorin in order to do what Michael explained before, to maybe run around, to play. His brain is physically fully there. He understands everything. He's learning English. He's talking in Russian language, and was really fun to meet them and to see these eyes. I will never forget. And he's very, very communicative by body language and with his speech. After that short moment I had the chance to talk to Tatiana Maximova, the president of the Child Rehabilitation Center, and also shared with her my knowledge with regard to Rotary. And she was also surprised how far Rotary can reach out in the world and to fundraise money to support children like Gorin. And I asked her that, I informed her that it is our intention to further fundraise money for further support of children. And she spontaneously raised her hand and said, if you need a speaker for this kind of advertising of fundraising, she will be more than happy to make a speech of 15, 20 minutes explaining the background, explaining the organization. And I believe, Michael, we should take this advantage when we set up a special meeting for fundraising other kids on this rehabilitation center. That's what I wanted to contribute. I want to also thank all who made it possible with their contribution, Antonina and others, that I could have had the chance to get this moment as I had today. Thank you, everybody. Stay healthy. And I hope within 2 months I can report some more progress. I agreed with Gorin and with the Rehabilitation Center that we will do a follow-up. What are the progress? How was the money used? So maybe in 2 or 3 months, I will be able to give you some feedback on this. Thank you very much for the floor, Michael.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We need to hear those stories, and we need to hear those stories, and we need to know that's happening. And this is one of the things that one second, Anthony, 1 second, I'll be right with you. This is one of the things that I want to point out, that us older Rotarians, we know it, but it's the younger Rotarians that we have to understand. When Andreas went there today and he had a chance to hold the hand of that child, of the person that he is helping, when we get our younger Rotarians to actually go to the place where these things are being done, that's when they get the euphoric feeling in their life, in their heart, and they grow a desire to help others. You grow that desire by letting people experience the euphoric feeling from helping someone else. And helping a young child, I've done it many, many years ago in a different organization, and it got me started. Helping these children and being around them, feeling them, their need and their connection with Rotary is going to make many more lifelong Rotarians, okay? Antonina, you had a question before. I know Kenneth Quinn has a comment he wants to make, but Antonina, you had a question.
It's just explanation. I think first name of this boy is Makar.
The other way around.
And yes, and Gorin is last name. That's it. Makar.
Thank you. That's me being a dumb American, not knowing how some of these names work sometimes, and I get them mixed up. So thank you very much, Antonina. I appreciate that. Hold on, Kenneth. We're not quite there yet. Randall, will you show us you got that 4-minute video available?
Yep, just 1 second, please.
Okay, you'll run that, and then we'll talk to Ken in just a moment. Okay, Ken? Thank you.
There are 4 medical rehabilitation centers in the world that are funded solely by charitable donations. The St. Petersburg Charitable Foundation, the Children's Rehabilitation Center, is one of them. More than 8,000 children from Russia and other countries have been treated here since the center was established. The methods used at the center have been approved and recommended for practical use by the Health Committee of St. Petersburg. Our specialists train children to sit, stand, and move independently according to their physical capacity so that they will be able to catch up with their peers. After a course of rehabilitation here, patients become more independent and ready for life's further challenges. Not only do the children start moving, they also begin speaking, some of them for the first time in their lives, due to our treatment. The program of the rehabilitation course includes a number of different methods of treatment in order to gain better effectiveness through a combination of therapies. 1. Individual manual techniques. This method of techniques is essential for preparing a child for subsequent physical activity. Our specialists employ 70 various types of massage in order to prevent the effect of habituation. 2. Remedial gymnastics. Gymnastics based on the Eastern techniques of static exercises as well as regular dynamic exercises are aimed at creating conventional movement patterns, training the vestibular system, and at providing activity loads that are appropriate for the child's age. The rehabilitation gym equipment was created by our specialist and is implemented according to the required medical task. In the gym, the children can use a wakeboard, alpine skis, a TRX suspension trainer, a trim trail, vertical rope lines, parallel bars, a mounted horse, a climbing wall, and so on. 3. Reflex therapy. This traditional Chinese approach ensures the greater effectiveness of the previous manipulation therapies. 4. Vibroacoustic therapy. This stimulates the growth of the femur and the heel bones. This method boosts bone growth and alleviates leg asymmetry and that of immature heel bones. 5. Orthopedic alignment. There is a workshop in the center for the production of custom-made corrective insoles and orthopedic footwear. A CNC machine carves out the insole according to the mold of the child's foot, which is then inserted into the footwear that is also made here. This orthopedic unit permits you to fix the legs of a child who is just starting to make his first attempts to stand and subsequently to walk at a specific angle. This remarkable insole helps to form the correct arch of the foot and heel bone. 6. Speech therapy, including massage. This helps to resolve problems with articulation and breathing. All these methods may be successfully applied not only for the rehabilitation of children afflicted by cerebral palsy, but also for the treatment of leg asymmetry, flat-footedness, scoliosis, and spinal cord injuries. We have a club called The Great Victories of Our Little Heroes, where we celebrate our patients' achievements almost every month. Our center is available to Russian citizens as well as to the citizens of other countries. We'll be more than happy to provide help to new young patients.
Thank you, Randall, for showing that. Myself, Andreas, Randall, Walter, about 4 or 5 of us went to the center about a month ago, and we were very much impressed. It is very, very clean, very, very high standards, and they're doing a wonderful job. Recently, Russia had a team go around Russia and look at organizations that were doing these type of work, not only rehabilitation, but other things. And they identified 193 organizations in Russia that were doing good for the communities. They ranked those 193. This center ranked number 3 out of 193 on its openness for people to come in ask questions, see their books, look at their costs, see what they're doing. They were very, very open and very, very helpful. So they are very well known in Russia, and they will help more. But often they get children in there like Gorin who his parents cannot afford it. And as Andre said today, his mother's eyes and his eyes just swelled up when they saw the fact that we were going to help them. So we're going to be looking to you folks and many Rotarians around the world who might want to help us with this project and make some donations. And we will watch those things very closely. Andreas, who was talking earlier, is our treasurer for our organization. And I can tell you, he squeezes a kopeck so tight that it squeals all the way to the bank. So he is tight with money, and he is very accurate with it. So we'll be happy to, if you want to make donations, tell you exactly where it went, how it was spent, and trying to help these people. So we just wanted all of you to see this. We will be sending out messages about it to you. If you're interested in contacting us about it, most of you know how to contact Randall or myself. Just contact our club, anyone, and we'll be happy to get back to all of you. Thank you very, very much for your attention. Kenneth just sent me a message a few minutes ago. He wants to make an additional comment. Kenneth, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was a wonderful video. I should have thought to mention the question about Rotary in Vietnam is that Heidi Kuhn, who spoke to your club, and Roots of Peace are a key avenue for doing that. Roots of Peace and Heidi are very connected to Rotary. She's a proud Rotarian, and they have a lot of support from the Vietnamese government. And tomorrow in the US, tomorrow evening, she's having a ceremony to honor people. I imagine she's shared that information with you. But the other is there are several thousand Vietnamese Americans, American citizens now, who also are anxious to have relationships and could possibly be a target for building some Rotary clubs among them. Okay. So I just wanted to make that one point.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Kenneth. And Heidi did point that out when she was talking to us a couple of weeks ago about the minefields and all the things they're finding in Vietnam and trying to clear those.
Yes.
Matter of fact, one of the things that they're doing is they have black pepper that they're taking out of Vietnam and sending it to, I believe it's California. And there is a pepper sales company in California that processes the peppers and sell the peppers, and he only buys peppers from Vietnam. He's an ex-GI who was over there during the war also, so his heart is there. Is there any other questions for anyone for Ken, or any other comments that we have from the group? We're getting close.
Michael,
Yes,
the DG would like to say a few words.
Absolutely. Where is he? They're right in the middle of my screen. I missed you. Sorry about that. District Director Ildus, go right ahead, sir. The floor is yours.
Yes, good evening, good afternoon, dear friends. Mr. President, Michael, Secretary Randall, and our great guest, Ambassador Case. I'm very appreciative for my invitation. I'm ashamed for my poor English. So it was really interesting to listen the great history of the politics who knows Russian very well, sometimes more better than me. And I've been in this autumn in St. Petersburg and saw your project, your chair project in the Hermitage Park, and was really proud that, about your project. But you, as a foreigner, helps our children with your health projects, and I'm very proud of that, Rotary as one family helps to other people without any borders. And I had short information that this Saturday, 5th of December, we had the assembly in Siberia, and I invite all of us, all of you, to participate in this assembly and support our team and to be closer to our district team. So we had a short conversation with Randall, and we had idea to involve our Rotarians to the Toastmasters movement and to improve our speaking skills. So thank you again, dear friends, and hope to see you in our district assemblies, conference, meetings, etc.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. You were not with us last week, but last week I gave a presentation on leadership for the 21st century Rotarian. And in that presentation for 21st century Rotarians, I talked about the connection between Toastmasters and Rotary. And our club is one of the unusual ones around the world. I think our club is the only Rotarian club in the world that 50% of our members are Toastmasters, 50%. So we are very much connected between Toastmasters and Rotary. And as a speaker, I would be happy to go to any of your Rotary clubs and talk about Toastmasters. If you'll just contact myself or Randall, I'm going to be doing that in the United States in January. They've already contacted me, and I'll go to any of them and talk about that connection between Rotary and Toastmasters. Because Rotarians can get things done, but if they can speak better, they'll get more things done. And that's sort of our focus between the not founding fathers, but the presidents that we had of both organizations. We're not going to combine clubs, but we're going to combine efforts to try to help leaders around the world be better leaders. So I think we're going in the right direction. But if you need a guest speaker, feel free to contact me and I can talk on both of those. Anybody else have another comment at all before I make my closing comments as president? Oh, I'm sorry, I got one more slide. Some of you already asked me the question and I didn't answer it for you. So I will try to answer it for you here in just a moment. Let's see if I go to the right slide. Nope. Nope. Yes, there it is. All right. The right slide. Our meetings. We have another meeting coming up next week. And next week we have a speaker who's going to be telling us about watches in Russia. Randall, can you give us 60 seconds on this fella, on David and what he's doing? You want to talk about next week?
Just not 60 seconds, but maybe 20 seconds. So David is the managing director of Raketa Watch Factory, which is maybe the oldest factory in Russia. It was established in 1721 in Peterhof. And he is producing luxury watches. He's bringing back two major Russian watch brands, Raketa and Pobeda, and turning them into luxury brands. And he's going to speak to us about the latest watch that they just launched last Thursday, which is super cool.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So we're looking forward to him. And then the week after that, on 16th December, if you decide to join us again, we have another treat for you, a gentleman that I know very well through Toastmasters, Deepak Justin. He has spoke to more than 1 million people around the world and worked with more than 1,000 companies in his lifetime. And he's not an old man. He's still a young man and he's doing great things all over the world. And he's going to talk about service before self. And he has put a little bit different twist on it. And I think you're going to find it very entertaining and very enjoyable on the 16th of December. So we have 2 more speakers coming up, 9 December, 16 December. And then on 21 December, I'm sorry, but we're not going to have an open meeting. We're going to have our Christmas party. That's on a Monday. We're moving from Wednesday to Monday, and we're going to have our party on the 21st. And then that'll be it for us until after the new year. We're going to let everybody sit down, catch their breath, relax a little bit. We'll see what happens afterwards. We might call an impromptu meeting in the middle between Christmas and New Year's just for the heck of it. I don't know what we're going to do for sure about that, but we might have one just for fun so we can all get online and wish each other a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's and spread a few more smiles around. We might do that impromptu. If we do, we have all of your contact. We will be happy to send out a message and tell you, pick up a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, whatever you want to drink, and come join us for a half an hour, and we'll just kibitz over what we're going to be doing in the new year, because everybody wants to know. That's the question. What's going to happen in the new year? And right now, not many people are sure what's going to happen. I don't think anyone in the world right now knows what we're going to be doing in the future. I think that future is going to be something that is different, something that's unusual, and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a predictor of what's going to happen, but I'm a predictor of one thing. If you're a Rotarian or you're working with Rotarians, you need to smile more. We need to spread more smiles around the world. It's not that hard to smile. It actually takes less muscles to smile than to do the frown. The frown takes more muscles. Smile. It's much, much easier. And remember, when you smile, you look at someone else, you're giving them a smile. And it's absolutely necessary to make the world go around a little bit better and a little bit easier. And if you're Rotarians, you need to be letting the people know we're smiling and spreading those smiles. On behalf of our Rotary Club, we would love to thank all of you for coming tonight. You are our supporters. You are our inspiration. You show up at the meetings and we get excited. And that's what life is all about. Getting excited as a Rotarian and then going out and doing something, as we just did this week, step up with our very first child. Andres Bone took the bull by the horn and went forward. We've got that first child, and now we're looking for a second child. So we're going to be reaching out around the world to see what we can do is try and make more of these children to walk again and play again and to run again and to live a good life. So on behalf of all of us, thank you all very, very much. We're going to hang around here for about another 12 minutes or so. If anybody wants to hang around and make any comments, that's great. I have one more thing. If you have a cup of coffee, if you have a glass of wine, if you have a bottle of beer, whatever you got, I'd like to make a toast. Can you pick up something to drink with? I don't know if you got it. Pick up an empty cup if you don't have anything in it. Just pick up one. I'd like to make a toast. Here's a toast to all Rotarians and to those people who are not yet Rotarians. May those people who are Rotarians now and future Rotarians work together for the betterment of the world. And if we stub your toe in a project, don't give up. Pick yourself up, keep going, and I'm sure you'll be successful. Here's the Rotary. Here, here. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mike.
One more thing. I forgot to open the meeting, but I did remember to close the meeting. Our big bell is in the hotel where we normally meet. I don't have it, but I got my own bell. Our meeting is officially closed. Thank you all very, very much. We're going to hang around and talk if anybody wants to hang around.